Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
All right, let's talk real life for a second. Stress is no longer an occasional inconvenience. It's the default operating system for most adults in our world today. According to the American Psychology Association, 77% of people report stress affecting their physical health, and nearly 73% says that it impacts their mental health. Translation, we are not just stressed, we're living inside it. And yet, most of what we've been taught about stress is incomplete. We're told to manage time better, breathe more, take vacations. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't fix a mindset problem with a surface level type of theatrics. Today's guest doesn't just talk about stress, he's lived it, dissected it, and rebuilt his life beyond it. I'm speaking about Dr. Gary Sprouse, MD, known globally as the Less Stress Doc.
Ta-da.
He is a retired primary care physician with nearly a decade of insight most pressure-packed professions on the planet don't talk about. Malpractice suits, medical board bureaucracy, the whole circus. And instead of burning out quietly, he's asked a better question. What if stress doesn't come from where we think it does? The question changed everything for him and now for thousands of people worldwide. So if you've been feeling overwhelmed, mentally exhausted, stuck, replaying guilt, worry, and regret loop, this conversation is for you, and more than likely, one of your friends too. So share this episode and pull up a chair. Dr. Gary Sprouse, an award-winning author. He wrote the book, Highway to Your Happy Place, a roadmap to less stress, and a contributing author alongside Jack Canfield in his best-selling book, Mindset Matters. They miss getting me in there. Maybe they'll write it again and I'll get in.
Yeah.
But what makes Dr. Sprouse different is he doesn't preach theory, he doesn't sell toxic positivity, and he definitely doesn't pretend stress magically disappears. He teaches how mindset determines whether stress becomes a prison or a pathway. And I just love that. Dr. Sprouse, welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments. I'm so excited to have you and have this conversation with you. Tell us in your own words who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Yeah. Well, so I'm the less stress doc, right? Not the no stress doc, the less stress doc.
The less.
Yes. Yeah. So I, as a primary care doctor, I found all these patients coming in that their psychological issues were affecting their physical issues. And so I decided that I had read some articles that said that the majority of patients don't actually go see a psychiatrist or psychologist, but I sent them there because of whatever reason, money, insurance, stigma, whatever. And so I took it upon myself to start looking into what can I do as a primary care doctor to help them with their psychological issues. And it led me to this incredible insight, right? So here's the insight. So as a physician, I'm used to writing a prescription that says, hey, here's a medicine for your blood pressure, and it's going to work great, but it could have some side effects. And when I took that statement and I applied it to human skills, I came up with the same conclusion. So here's the answer. Like, we have this incredible skill of being able to envision the future. Amazing, right? No other animal has anything like what we have.
Yes.
But the side effect is then we have to worry about it. So psychologists will say to us, we'll just live for today, which really implies giving up that skill of envisioning the future. Just live for today. So and they go, and you'll be happier. So my grandson, who's 1 year old, lives for today, and he's really happy. He doesn't sit at the breakfast table eating his banana going, hey, Dad, how are we going to pay for college? Because it doesn't come up. He doesn't have that skill yet.
Thank God.
Right.
I tell them to enjoy it. I look at little ones and say, you better enjoy this phase.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So he can't envision the future. Then, therefore, he cannot have the side effect of worrying about it. So his life is way happier and less stressful, but also not very successful because he needs his parents to keep track of him so he doesn't get in trouble, right?
So when he puts his feet around the corner, he doesn't
Yes.
walk
you got
into the
it.
kitchen oven.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. So what I would then said was like, okay, I looked at all the skills that humans have. We have the ability to determine right and wrong. We have the ability to determine good and bad. We have the ability to handle more than one stress. I was talking about my dog the other day. I was like, when she's hungry, she's going to eat. When she's not hungry, she's not going to eat. She has to go to the bathroom. She's like, hey, I want to go to the bathroom, right? If a stranger comes to the door, she's barking. But then that's it. Like there's only one thing at a time. But humans can handle more than one thing at a time. And so we end up overwhelmed because that's the side effect to handle too many things at one time.
Yeah.
So when you look, so then the book became let's look at the skill we have, let's look at the side effect, let's keep the skill, and let's lose the side effect.
So deep. I want to get straight to it here because this is disruptive in the best way. Most people think stress comes from what's happening, their job, their money, relationships, health issues. But you say that explanation is incomplete. So let's reset the frame. Where does stress actually originate and why we have been misunderstanding it for so long?
So, a couple things. First off, here's my definition of stress.
Yeah.
So, stress is us trying to adapt to our changing environment with our body that's changing. Like, so that's going to be a continuous process for the rest of your life. So, there's no way to get rid of stress until you die. When you're dead, then there's no more stress, right?
That's why you're less stressed and not no
Yes,
stress.
exactly, right? So there's always gonna be some stress. Now, here's the key. Like, there are things that are gonna happen in our environment. There's gonna be things that happen to us, and that we don't have much control over what happens, but what we do have control over is how we react to it. That is the big difference. So when you go, "Oh, well, there was a hurricane, or there was a flood, or there was, I got fired at my work," or that, those are all things that happen to you, but how you respond to them makes a huge difference. And that's why I got involved with that other book with Jack Canfield, because that's where mindset really
Right.
changes what happens to you. And in that book, what I write about, I had some issues, issues with my license, and I could have crumbled. I could have quit. I could have just gone into my, dark place and stayed there. But what I chose because of my mindset, I was like, wait, because of the way I looked at the problem, not only did I make it crawl my way through it, no, I got through it and I was actually doing great. Like I was thriving, not
Prospered,
surviving. And
yes.
it's like, and it all had to do with my mindset. And so what I tell people is how you approach a problem has as much to do with how it gets solved as how whatever the problem is and what your skills are. It's that mindset really makes a huge difference. And then the third thing is what we just talked about was that the majority of our stresses are coming from these things like worry and guilt and regret. And here's what I've learned. It's like, so patients, like, unfortunately, as a primary care doctor, I got to deal with a lot of death, right? People are older, they were dying. And so someone would come in and their spouse would have died. And they're like, oh, I'm so devastated. And you read the books on stress, what they say is losing your spouse is one of the worst stresses that's out there. And you're like,
Mm,
I get it. But, and here's the key, what makes it so stressful? There's ingredients that make it stressful. And that's what we're just kind of deal with he lost a spouse. No, here's the deal. They're feeling worried about what's going to happen. They're feeling guilty they didn't do something. They're regretting some choice they made. Their self-esteem takes a hit. They're feeling overwhelmed. I can do something about those things. I can't
mhm.
bring a spouse back, but I can help them with those other things, which then makes losing your spouse not as bad. And so when you understand what the ingredients are that go into what makes things stressful,
Yes,
then you can actually do something about it.
absolutely. What really landed for me in your work is the idea that stress isn't an event, it's the meaning we assign to the event. I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Also, yeah, the Cleveland Clinic backs this up actually. They said, noting that chronic stress is less about circumstance and more about perceived lack of control. I mean, that's
You wanna
mindset
hear
territory all there.
do you wanna hear a crazy study that they did? They
Mhm.
took people that had won the lottery, and they compared it to people who had become a paraplegic, okay? And within 1 year, they were in the same place they had been a year before. And you're like, "Wait, what?" So people who were unhappy who won the lottery were still unhappy a year later. People that were happy that became a paraplegic a year later were still happy. And they're like, "Wait, what?" That goes to what you just said, that it's not the
Yes.
circumstances, it's how you approach it that makes the difference.
Yes. Someone so when someone says I can't help being stressed, what they're actually giving away in that moment. What are they actually
Well,
saying?
no, because what they're doing is well, okay, so yes, people are okay. So, and when I started this I wrote the book came out a couple years ago, and I was focusing more on worry, but now I'm kind of focused more on overwhelmed because what happens is people have a lot of worry, people have feel guilt, people have a lot of problems, and they get overwhelmed because there's a lot of stuff going on. And when someone goes, "Well, just meditate or just exercise," and you're like, "Well, those are nice things." But they're very generic and they're not gonna fix what the problem is. So, like, if I look at overwhelmed, what's going on is, like, here's what happens to people. They have 1 problem, 2 problems, they're good, right? Everything's okay. A 3rd problem comes along and they go up this slope, like, like this, and all of a sudden now they're overwhelmed. And they go, "Oh my," when they're overwhelmed, they're sitting there going, "I don't even know where to get started. Like, I'm way past my coping skills. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do here. What?" And I'm like, "Sit down, take a deep breath. Let me show you that all you have to do, like, you have 3 problems now. If we just get rid of 1 of them, then you're back down to 1 or 2 problems,
You're
and
less
you're back
stressed.
under control. Yay, right?
Yeah.
Or if you get rid of some of the severity of these." So here's one of the things I tell people. I'm gonna get rid of half your stress with 1 line. And they're like, "What? Come on, seriously." Now, this is so funny. I have to tell you the story. I'm doing this lecture and I'm mic'd up, right? So I'm doing this lecture for like 50 people. And I tell them at the beginning of the lecture, I'm going to get rid of half their stress with one line, but they're going to have to wait for it because I have to lay some groundwork, right? So halfway through the talk, I go, "Okay, here's the sentence." And I go to give the sentence and my mic cuts out. So now they take 10 minutes to get the mic fixed. So everybody's sitting waiting for it. Like,
We're
wait.
stressed now.
And I'm like, I didn't plan that, but it was like perfect timing. It was like, next time I'm gonna have to plan. Oh, my mic went out. We gotta wait anyway. Anyway, so here's the
That is
line, right?
so funny.
Yeah, it is fine. So here's the line. Your stresses max out at a 10. Everybody else's stresses max out at a 5. Now, that doesn't mean they're a 0. That means you can still care about people, but their stresses are a 5, not a 10. And I've watched people, and I see this way more in women, but it doesn't matter, right? They'll be in a place where, like, their son or their spouse or somebody is in trouble, and they take on their stress as if it's theirs. And so now they're reacting as if it's their stress, which
Yeah.
when you start doing that for your son and for your husband and for your friend down the street, you become a sponge. You're drawing in all the stress, and then you start getting too much, and you get oversaturated, and now you're leaking. So you're looking around, you're like, "Oh my God, I'm leaking." But
Yeah.
then somebody comes and you take on more, and so what I tell people is everybody else's stress is max out at a 5. And I had to learn this as a doctor, right? So I came in to practice as I was a young whippersnapper, as my patients call me.
Whippersnapper.
Yeah. So I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna fix everybody. They walk in the door, I'm gonna crush this, right?" Well, by lunchtime, I was overwhelmed because everybody comes in with problems, right?
Nobody
And I'm
goes
like,
to a
"No, I'm
doctor when they're okay.
Yes,
Yes.
it's like, yeah. So what I had to learn was, this is what I learned. I had to build what I called an empathy wall. So this
Mm,
is for everybody. So here's the empathy wall. The wall has to be thick enough that it protects you from other people's stresses. So I couldn't be falling apart every time I had to tell someone they had cancer, or I had to diagnose them with an addiction, or something bad was going on in their life. So I had to build this wall that was thick enough so it protected me, but I had to be thin enough that I could still be empathetic, because I've seen way too many doctors who are like these cold fishes that go, "Yeah, whatever, that's your problem, not mine." No, I wanted people to feel like I cared about their problem, because that's what people are looking for. They want somebody that's been trained to, hey, use your training to help me. And you're like, yeah. So that's what I did. But I had to learn that when I'm behind my wall, I had to be protected. But I also had to say, look, I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to guide you. So
yeah.
fixing wasn't my goal. Guiding people, getting them to be healthier and happier, that was my goal. So what would happen is, like, I had friends that would burn out because they were like, their job was to fix somebody. And so they would tell the person, do this, do this, do this. And the person would come back and still have the same problem. And he goes, "Well, did you do the things I told you?" And they're like, "Well, no, I couldn't." And they're like, "Well, what the heck? Why didn't you do that?" And you're like, so they would get frustrated because they felt like they failed. And I'm like, no, my job is to guide you, give you advice, tell you which way to go. And I'm going to get good at getting you good advice. I'm going to keep reading to get you the best advice I can. And I'm going to get better at convincing you to do what I tell you to do and persuading you.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, you are the one that has to live your life.
Yeah,
You're
you
just coming to
decide
me to get some advice on how to do it right. And so how to do it, not even right, how to do it better, right?
better.
So, yeah, so then I was successful whether the person actually solved their problem or not because I had done my part of the equation.
Yes, you had done your part. So powerful. I want to dig into a little bit more of your work on transforming guilt and worry and regret, guilt, worry, and regret, because this is one, it's like a loop. It's a mental loop. So, one of the things I learned while I was looking over your work is that Harvard did a research, Harvard Medical School did a research that shows about 85% of what we worry about never actually happens. Everybody hears that. Believe it or not, Harvard did a research. Yet our nervous system tend to react as if it already has. So guilt lives in the past, worry is the future, and then regret just keeps playing for whatever we can't change, right? So, Dr. Gary, you teach that these aren't just emotions, they are mental habits, that worry, guilt, and regret, they're mental habits. Can you walk us through how does mindset transform guilt, worry, and regret from emotional traps into tools that we can actually grow from? Because you're saying a pathway to actually grow, not go downhill or stay stuck. Tell us about that.
Okay. So, a couple things. So, we'll take worry first. So, worry, when I say patients would come to me and say, "Doc, I worry that I worry too much." And you're like, "Well, then you probably do, right?" So, but I would
Worry
say
that
to
I
them,
worry too much.
yes,
I'm
exactly.
sorry.
So I was like, "But tell me what worry is." And what I found is most people stumble over trying to define it. It's not that easy to define, right? And so what I did was so the first step of any of these chapters was to define what the problem was, right? So
Right.
worry is having this incredible skill of envisioning the future and then focusing on all the bad things that can happen, the what ifs, and then having that physiological reaction right now. And that's where we get into trouble. Like, it's
Dang.
okay to be
So
saying, hey, something
powerful.
bad could happen and be afraid for a couple minutes. But what we do is we start afraid for hours and days and weeks. And it's like your body was not designed to be running at 120 miles an hour forever. It was meant to do that for a few minutes at a time and then stop, right? So what
Right.
I then say is, okay, so here's what we have to do. So there's two things that I talk about primarily. So the first one is we have the ability to choose. So our habit has been to focus on all the bad things that can happen. So we can choose to say, you know what? Instead of focusing on the bad things, I'm going to focus on the good things. So I would
Mm,
have seminars. I'd say, write down 10 bad things that could happen. And people are like writing furiously. I go, tell me 10 good things that could happen. They're like, nah, no, that's not going to happen. Right. And you're like, so you're not in the habit of thinking about the good
good
things that could
things.
come along. You're so busy in that rut of habit of thinking about the bad things that you've ignored all
Yes.
the good things that could happen. Right. And so
Hmm.
what I say is focus and so focus on it, but here's the key. So it's called realistic optimism. So that
Mm,
meant like I use myself, right? So when I wrote my book, I was like, I could have said, "Oh, who's going to read this?" Right? Which would then made me feel bad, which made me not write the book.
write
But
the
I
book.
focused on, "Hey, this book's going to help a lot of people." That made me energized and felt good. Yeah, all right. But I was realistic, and I realized that most authors do not make a living out of selling their books. So I kept my day job as a doctor
Hmm.
while I was writing the book. So then once I retired, then I could shift my focus full time to the book, right?
Right.
So
Right.
realistic optimism. So the second thing in is how do you well, okay, but there are some bad things that could happen, right? And you're like, yeah. So then I have this thing called a worry organizer. And the worry organizer
Whoa.
allows us to plan, but without fear. That's the key, right? So the worry organizer is 5 things. So the first one is like, what are you worried about? So I have a patient that was worried that she's going to get breast cancer. The second category is like, well, why are you worried about that? And so to her sister and her mom both had breast cancer. And like, well, okay, I can get that, right? The third
Right.
category is how likely is it to happen and how bad would it be if it did happen? And in her case, she had a 100% chance she was going to get it. This is what she thought. 100% chance.
She even come up with those numbers.
Yeah. She thought 100% chance she was gonna die, that she was gonna get breast cancer and die from it. And so what I said to her was like, "Now that I know what you're thinking," I go, "No, no, 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 those aren't the right numbers. So if you have family history, your chance are 15%. And because we're gonna catch it early, your chances of survival are 85%." And she was like, "Wait, what?" And you could
That's
see
the reality.
yes, right? And
Yes. That's
so
how you
it
disrupt the
changed
limiting
what
belief.
she thought about it because that was now she got her life back. So then the last two categories of the first one is like, well, what do we do to make it not happen? So eat a healthy diet, get a mammogram, and blah, 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 right? And then the last category, and this is the one I think is the most important, is, well, if you got breast cancer, what would you do? And so what we said is we made a plan, and the plan was, okay, I'm going to research breast institutes now. I'm going to look up the best treatments. I'm going to get my will signed. I'm going to get my sister to sign a document saying I'm going to take care of your kids if something happens to you, right? So now you're planned for what's going to happen without, right, exactly, without doing this, right? That's exactly right. So those are the things that I talk about. But I will say this. I would talk to people about worry, and they were like, yeah, whatever. And here's what I realized is that most people who worry actually think it's a sign of caring. And so if you don't worry, then you don't care. And so I get into trouble with this because somebody will come to me and say, well, why aren't you worried? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean? Why am I not worried? Like, worry isn't helping the problem. It actually makes it worse because when you're running around in fear,
Can I just say that is the relationship between men and women, because we get mad because men aren't worrying as much as we do.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Just being honest.
Yes.
Why are you
There's
so
a whole bunch of
unbothered?
relationship to them. Yes, exactly. Yes. And that's so what I tell people is like, look, when you worry, that means there's fear. And fear literally turns off the thinking part of your brain. So thinking without fear makes you more effective.
Yes.
So worry doesn't show that you care. Solving the problem, that's what shows you care. So
oh my goodness. And that's how men think. You know, I was married once. Got married when I was really young. We were together for like 17 years, half my life by the time we got separated and divorced. But my partner recently, about a year and a half ago, we had this moment where I parked my car in where my condo is, and I parked my car, and I guess I didn't have my little decal up, and they came and towed my car.
No.
And I get up to go to the office, and my car is gone. I don't know where my car is. Can't even guess why my car is gone. I mean, it's not because I didn't pay the note, because I did. So I know that's fine. So I'm thinking someone stole my car, but I need to get to the office. And I start getting frustrated. And then I thought about it. I'm like, oh my God, I wonder if my car got towed because I didn't have the decal up. And I got frustrated. I just started crying. And he's like, okay, stop. Don't start the crying thing. Look up. There's a number. Call and see if they have your car. And I'm like, listen to me. I have to let it out. He's like, no, you need to think about it. You said you want to get to the office, right? So you need to know where your car is, and we need to call you a Lyft or an Uber. And so later on, I'm the type of person that I listen, right? I've become that woman that listens to my partner because obviously I'm crying and he's not. So maybe he's smarter right now. So I go later on, I said, why did you tell me to stop? Sometimes I just want to be a girl. I don't like that. I need to feel my feelings at 100. Let it all out and think. I'm telling you, I always figure it out. Before I had you, I always figured it out. He's like, he listened. He said, I'm going to tell you this. When you're doing all that anxiousness, all that worrying, all that whatever, all the emotions, you're not thinking. And that takes longer time to get to solve the problem. My way of loving and supporting you is helping you solve the problem. So I'm not going to go down the drama hill with you. And I'm like, it's not drama. You see, all I heard is drama. I didn't hear all the wonderful, loving things he said. And I go, it's not drama. It's my feelings, God. You don't have any feelings? And I thought about this conversation a few hours later, and I called him and said, I am so sorry, honey. I completely got it. I get it now. It makes sense. This is why men and women don't communicate effectively, because you all are communicating the urgency of being the provider and protector that we were training you all to be ever since you were in your mother's womb or before you were even born. I'm going to have a son, and he's going to be this and that, and he's going to have a beautiful wife, and he's going to protect her. And then here you come protecting us, but we want you to protect us on our terms. That's not how that works. We love to do the worry first.
Well,
some of us.
And if worry, there is a balance, right? So men tend to minimize, right?
You guys do that too, and that's what we get protective about.
That's right. So what I found was that this is what got people together. Like, you're freaking out, and he goes, oh, honey, it's going to be okay. And you're like, oh, that makes me feel so good. But then over time, you go, hey, you said, he goes, hey, it's going to be okay. And you go, you said that last time and it wasn't okay. So now I don't believe you anymore. Now you're not even putting any energy into no. So now what he was doing that made you feel good in the beginning, now not only does it not make you feel good, it makes you mad. And then you get
Exactly.
react with anger to him and then he gets mad at you. And then it gets a
Now
mess,
you're
right?
mad at each other forever, and then you end up divorced possibly
Yeah. So what I
because
found
people
is that
never
when
find their way back.
minimizing is okay, denying not okay. So if you go, well,
Minimize.
like if you say, okay, the plane's not going to crash, that's denial, right? Because the plane could
Wow.
crash. What you
It's
would
in
be
the air.
better off saying is the chances of the plane crashing are like 1 in a million. That means that you've said, okay, it could crash, but the likelihood is so unlikely that it's not worth paying attention
Wait,
because it's so unlikely to happen. But then that allows the woman to go, well, I thought it, because women are gone, well, it might crash 50% of the time. And so what I found with that worry sheet is that the worry ordinary is you're putting numbers on things. So here's what this is the story I tell. So
love
like
this.
my son comes to me and says, Dad, I want to go to a concert. And he's 16 years old. And you're like, well, that makes me a little nervous because a lot of bad things can happen at a concert. And you're like, okay, you can go to the concert. And then he goes, well, just so you know, it's in another state. And you're like, wait, what? Well, that changed the equation. No, you cannot go to another state. And he goes, well, why? It's not going to be different. Like, it's not like it's not that far away, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Because if something happens, it could be bad and I wouldn't be able to fix it because it's a different state. You're a snotty little kid. Why are you not listening to me? And you're a crappy dad who's controlling, blah, blah, right? So you start calling each other names. But if I go, okay, son, what's the likelihood of this causing a problem? Let's give it a number. And I go, well, I think it's 40%. And he goes, what? No, I think it's more like 10%. So now you're arguing about numbers, not belittling each other, right? And then you go, well, let's do this. Let's call up the police and say how likely it is for a teenager to get in trouble at a concert in a different state. And now you can actually do some research and get some numbers that are real.
I
And
love
so
it.
that allows you to sort of put real numbers on there as opposed to just yelling at each other.
The worry organizer. I am so ecstatic about this. And I will tell everybody about your book.
Yeah.
This is
Do it one
phenomenal.
time. Yeah. It's good.
Yes. Yes, of course. I didn't get my copy before, but I did like a preview of it. So I'm going to get my copy. Oh my goodness. Okay, so here's what I love about your approach. You don't tell people to stop feeling.
That is
You
correct.
teach
Yeah.
them how to reinterpret and reframe what they're feeling. So for someone listening, Dr. Sprouse, right now that feels emotionally exhausted from overthinking, what's the first mindset shift they need to make today?
Okay. So here's what I'm going to say to you. Like emotions were, you have to understand what emotions are and what they were for, right? So
Uh-huh.
emotions are push button, pre programmed reactions that we have. Okay. So they were set up. So like if there's a rustle in the bushes, you don't want to go, what the heck was that? Is that a kitty cat or a tiger? I don't know. I'm getting the heck out of here, right? You're running away because the button got pushed and you're like zooming away. And then later on you go, oh, yeah, it was just a kitty, so it's okay, right? But the reaction was set up to keep you surviving before you could think. So
Right.
fear and anger and sadness were set up to allow us to survive before we could think. And so they're push button and they're fast, like they happen right away, right? And so we don't learn how to be afraid. We don't learn how to be angry. What we learn is what to be angry about. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what I see then is our emotions are getting hijacked for the wrong reasons. So
Yes.
when you're freaking out, like what is that going to do? That freak out was designed to help you run away from something dangerous. There's nothing dangerous going on right now. So why am I using that emotion? So our emotions get triggered for things that they weren't supposed to get triggered for. And anger is the worst one for that. So what I found was, and I'll use myself as an example. My daughter lives in Texas now, and she came up to see my ex-wife, her mom. And I'm calling her on Thanksgiving going, hey, happy Thanksgiving. She goes, oh, I can't talk right now because I'm busy cooking a pie. And I'm like, cooking a pie? What are you cooking a pie for? She goes, oh, I'm going over to mom's friend's house. I'm like, wait, you're up here? You're like here now? I'm in Maryland, right? Like you're in Maryland? She goes, well, yeah. And I'm like, wait, you didn't even tell me? What the heck? What? She goes, well, and I'm like, what do you mean? Right? So I'm about to get angry. I'm like,
Yes.
right? You blah, 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 right? But then I stopped. So the button was getting pushed, and but
Right.
then I went, whoa, wait a second, stop. Is somebody trying to beat me up? Is someone trying to kill me? That's what anger was for, right? Is someone trying to intimidate me? No, they weren't. So then I go, wait, what am I really feeling? So what I was really feeling, I was hurt and I felt
Yeah.
disrespected. And so
Yes.
instead of yelling and screaming at her, which would have then enlisted her yelling and screaming back at me, what I said to her was like, Courtney, you hurt me. I felt disrespected. That wasn't, I didn't like that. And
Yeah.
I didn't say, oh, yeah, this is horrible. I can't believe you did it. I was like, you know what? We can't change what happened. It's already happened. So what
Next
we
time.
can change is what happens in the future. So I don't want this to ever happen again because I don't like being hurt. And what most people do with their hurt or their sadness is they turn it into anger and then they react because anger is this incredible emotion that makes
Yeah.
you feel powerful. So
Like
when
you're in
you're feeling
charge
hurt
because
or
especially when
afraid,
you don't feel like you're in charge. Yeah.
yes, when you're afraid, you're crouched down in a corner, like looking around, going, "Oh, I'm weak. I don't know what to do." When you're angry, you're like, right? So people
The
turn that.
green-eyed
They don't like
monster, I
that
call
feeling
it.
of insecurity, that fear. So they turn it into anger, and then they're like this. The problem is that's not the appropriate emotion because that's not what's going on. And if they
Mhm.
took a second to figure out, like if you had taken a second to go, why am I freaking out? Why am I crying? And you're like, well, you felt like you had some loss. There was something that was taken away from you. Well, that made you upset and sad. And you were frustrated because you couldn't get to work and blah, blah. But crying and being angry that wasn't the right emotion for that setting. You could
No.
have emotion, but it's not the right emotion.
Right. You're
So
misplaced.
a lot of people go, well, I shouldn't control my emotions. I should just let them out. And you're like, well, that's great. But then that allows your emotions to control you
And
instead
that's
of
why
you
we
controlling the
demonstrate
emotions.
anger. Like you said, anger puts you
Yeah.
in a real powerful, appear to be powerful situation. That's why we go there first. Like,
Yes.
I'm sad,
So what I
I
found
get
so
angry.
here
I'm hurt, I'm angry. I'm hungry, I'm angry. It's
yes,
like
yes,
everything
yes,
becomes anger.
exactly. No, no, that's exactly right. So what I said is like, I watched this show once. It was a comedy show, and the actress, it was amazing to me. She went through 4 distinct emotions in 2 minutes with no words. And I'm like, that's an incredible skill that she just has there, right? And I'm like, you know what? To my patients, I go, look, hey, here's this lady there's a human being that can do this. Like, you don't have to be that good. You just have to be a little bit good, right? You just have to think you can control your emotions and things will get better because here's what people say to me. Dr. Sprouse, this person did this and they made me mad. Like, no, no. See, now you're giving your control of you and your emotions to somebody else. You have to say, well, they did something and then I reacted with anger. Or
Mhm.
I can say I reacted with whatever I reacted with. So when you start taking control of your own emotions, then you go, "Oh, okay. All right. Now I get it. So now I feel like I'm in control." And we all want to feel in control.
Yes, because when you demonstrate that level of anger or feud or whatever you want to call it, you end up walking away and after time has passed, feeling small about your behavior, the things you let come out of your mouth, the people you would have now hurt. So it's something that you end up with that other one regret, right? Dr.
Uh,
Gary, let's
yeah,
do
absolutely.
yeah, let's do flip the script. Wes, this is where we ask you a question and you share with us how you flip your mindset and what were the results. So, one of the things that you talked about, you described living with a 55-gallon drum of a chest. That's your chest with 55 gallons. That image alone tells a big story. So, let me ask you this. What was that pivotal mindset shift that helped you move from survival mode to actually living in your happy place despite everything happening around you at that time?
So as a primary care doctor, I'm working in a rural area. And so
Mm,
in a rural area, there aren't a lot of specialists, there aren't a lot of, specialty clinics and things like that. So I was having a lot of patients come to me in chronic pain. And so I started delving into what was causing their pain and found ways to help alleviate their pain through medications, through, therapies, stuff like that, right? Surgeries if they needed it. But at the time when I started that, the medical societies were saying, hey, you doctors are under treating pain. So you need to be more aggressive about it. So you need to give
mm,
more pain medicine to get their pain under control. And the goal was get their pain under control, but minimize the side effects to the medicine.
Mm,
But then fast forward 10, 15 years, and then there was this whole epidemic of opioid overdoses.
mm,
And so the medical board shifted from going, hey, you're undertreating to, oh my gosh, you guys are overtreating everybody. So then I was already giving people fairly strong doses. They were tolerating it. Nobody was having side effects. Their pain was controlled. So I was doing what I was supposed to do, but they changed. So the pendulum has swung from you're overtreating, you're undertreating to now you're overtreating. And so then my board went into this whole long process of getting me in trouble for overtreating my patients. And so I would end up in a courtroom saying, all my patients, their pain is controlled. I've done all these tests. They have
mhm.
chronic pain. I'm sending them to specialists or doing physical therapy, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, but we don't like what you're doing. So we're going to get you in trouble. And
Wow.
so I could, and they got me in a lot of trouble, right? So
Mhm.
I could have crushed and said, you know what? Two things I could have done. One, I could have just quit and done something else. Or I could have said, you know what, to all my chronic pain patients, sorry, I'm not taking care of you anymore because I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And I decided with my mindset, going, you know what? This is not, they're not complain. My board is not, it's not me that they're just talking about people in general. They just want to change the pendulum. And I just happen to be stuck in the middle. So it wasn't a personal attack. It was, we don't want primary care doctors doing pain management. And what I found was that the guy who was running the board was actually a pain management specialist. And so it was his duty to make sure other doctors weren't doing that. And so he was just getting me in trouble, not because what I was doing was wrong, but because he had another agenda, if that makes
Mm.
sense, right? So
Yep.
by using that mindset, then I go, you know what? I'm going to keep taking care of my patients as long as I can because that population is underserved. And now with boards coming down on people for treating patients in chronic pain, their life has gotten even worse because now nobody wants to give them the one medicine that will make them feel better. And so I decided because of my mindset that I would keep treating my patients as long as I could, and that I would continue to interact with the board. I would change and do what they wanted me to do and reduce medicines as I could, things like that. But I wasn't taking it personally as if they were attacking me. They were just attacking the primary care doctor doing chronic pain medicine. And then they were just finding any little detail they could to make it stick, right? And so
Yeah.
I was able to, but here's what I said. So the optimism part was like, I did everything right, so I'm going to be fine, right? That was the optimism part, which kept me doing what I was doing. The realism part was like, this board could do something really stupid and take my license away. Oh my gosh, then what would I do, right? So I said to my wife, okay, here's the deal. We need to figure out other sources of income in case something bad happens, and we need to work
Mhm.
our butts off so that we can be financially secure in case something happens. So we took real estate courses and we learned how to do real estate and we bought some properties and we became landlords. We did mortgage things, we did fix and flips. And I took jobs that I would have never taken. Like I started doing a lot more nursing home work. So I ended up going to nursing homes that were an hour away, an hour and a half away, 2 hours away
Mhm.
because a lot of doctors don't like doing nursing home work.
Right.
So all of a sudden, I'm like
You're in
driving 3,
demand.
4 hours a day,
Yeah.
seeing 20, 30, 40, 50 patients a day. And when the pandemic hit, oh my gosh, that was
Even
crazy time, right?
more to do more of those.
Yes, exactly. But what happened was then when all came down and done, I kept my license. I was able to keep working. I had to let my chronic pain patients be seen by somebody else. But and I was able to retire when I was ready to retire. And I was able to retire earlier because I'd worked so hard all those other
Harder.
times being in preparation for, right? So rather than freaking out and retiring or quitting or whatever,
Yeah,
no, I just said,
proactive.
okay, given my mindset, here's how we're gonna solve this problem. We're gonna be financially secure and we're gonna have other sources of income if we need them.
I love that way. That is a mindset. That's instead of worrying, you put strategy in place and you work that plan and that strategy. I love it.
Yes.
One of
Yes.
the things I want to underline for our listeners that according to the World Health Organization, burnout is now officially classified as an occupational phenomenon, not a personal failure. So that's one thing to start with. So for fulfillment, it isn't about just eliminating pressure. It's about changing your relationship with it. And that's what Dr. Gary is facilitating with his work. So, how can someone feel fulfilled even when their external circumstances hasn't fully changed yet? What would you say to them?
So when you're talking about burnout, here's what happens. People that don't really care about their job don't get burnout. They're literally putting their time in. They're going, I'm going to put my 8 hours in and go home. They don't get burnout. The people who get burnout are the people who care, the people who
Mm,
want to do a really good job. And what happens is they get frustrated because the system has been set up that they can't. And I'll give you an
mhm,
example of one of my patients. So this was a teacher. She was amazing, right? She was this incredible teacher, won Teacher of the Year award for her county. It was like, she's great, right? And so what happened was the principal would say, he'd give her a couple students that were having problems.
mhm,
And she was like, okay. So then they would incorporate him and they would do better because she was such a good teacher, right? But over the
mhm.
next couple years, she got more and more of the problem kids. So her whole classroom was problem kids. And here was the key. She had the same standard that she had when she had regular kids. And so
Mm,
it was impossible to do what she did with regular kids to kids that were having troubles. You can't have the same bar, but she did. And so what happened was because she couldn't get to that same bar, she couldn't succeed. Then she said, you know what? I'm just going to quit. And so she quit. And I'm like, wait, what? So rather than, and here's what I would have said to her is, okay, go to your principal and say, look, Prince, there's two things you can do. One, don't give me everybody that's a problem child because I can't do that. Or
exactly.
you have to change your standards so that instead of saying, I want her to be at 100, if I'm at 95 or 90, you know what? And that's what I said to her. Your 90 is better than everybody else's 100, right? But
Right.
she couldn't make
She
that
couldn't see
switch.
it.
And so she just
Yeah.
quit. And that's where the burnout comes from, and, what I see with a lot of medical professionals, that's what they're feeling. Like, I'm talking to a friend of mine right now, her daughter's sick, and they wanna get a test done. So the test this is what, today's this is like a Wednesday, right?
Yeah, it is.
You go, "Well, you can't get the test for 5 days." And you're like, "What do you mean I can't get the test for 5 days? The machine's right there." They're like, "Well, your insurance hasn't said yes yet." "Well, what do you mean? Well, why isn't the insurance saying yes?" "Well, they want us to do some other test that doesn't have anything and you're like, "That's frustrating." And so when you're a doctor, you're like, "Wait, I wanna know what's wrong with my patient right now. The test is right there, but I can't because this and that and blah." All these things are getting in the way of you doing it, and you're like, that gets frustrating, and that's where burnout.
It happens. Yes. Oh my goodness. So actionable. Let's take it a little bit deeper. Dr. Gary, can you give us one practical science-based tool that someone can use this week to reduce stress without pretending life is perfect? Because a lot of people think that being less stressed means, oh no, I'm fine. I'm just gonna change my mindset,
No, there is a thing that I call stress blindness. So stress
Oh,
blindness, yeah, isn't that a great term? So stress blindness
yes.
is we have this baseline level of stress that has become so ingrained that we don't even see it anymore. And it's only when it blips up that we go, "Oh my god, I'm under stress." You're like, "No, you've been under stress." And I see this with all my patients that retire. They'll come back to me like, "Dang, now that I don't
Wow.
have to go to work, I didn't realize how stressed out I was because it was just part of life, right?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have to be careful about stress blindness. But here's my answer to you, is shoe boxes.
Huh?
And she's like,
Let's
"Wait,
hear
yeah,
about that. Funny, funny. I keep my shoes in the boxes.
yes, okay, so here's the story, right? So, it's an analogy. So, if you walk into your bedroom and you got 100 shoe boxes and the bottom's here and the lid's there and the left is over here and the right's over there and they're strewn all over the room, you're like, "Oh my god, this is crazy," right? But if you walk into the same room with the same amount of shoe boxes and the bottom, the 2 shoes are inside, the lid's on top, they're stored in the closet and they're all in the they're all lined up. That's a lot of shoe boxes, but it's not overwhelming. And now
Yeah.
you just take down one shoe box at a time. You look at it, figure it out, put it back up in the box. Not overwhelming. So what that's saying is what people do is they lump. So when you find yourself lumping, think about this. You go, "Oh, I got this problem and this problem and this oh, right? And you're lumped up
Yeah.
and you're like, I don't even know where to get started because they're all lumped together. But if you compartmentalize with your shoe boxes, the more separate you keep them, then the less overwhelming it becomes. And my wife will go, well, but some of these problems are related and you can't. Yeah, I get that. You can't keep them totally separate, but the more separate you keep them, then they're not overwhelming. So if you have this problem, like if the only problem you had was to find my car, that's not overwhelming. If the only problem you had was, how do I get to work? That's not a problem.
That's not a
If the only
problem.
problem was, how do I control my emotions so I'm not freaking out? That's not overwhelming. But when you lump them all together, then you're sobbing
That's
on the
you have a
sidewalk.
huge problem. You have a
Yeah.
huge problem, right?
So I tell people, when I hear them, I go, stop lumping. And they go, what? I go, stop lumping. They're like, oh, yeah, right. Okay. I
Stop
think shoeboxes,
lumping.
shoeboxes.
Shoe boxes everywhere and everything, right? So anyone that says, I don't have time to work on my mindset, here's a stat that's worth hearing. The Mayo Clinic reports that even brief daily mindset interventions like the shoe boxes can lower cortisol levels and improve your emotional regulation within just weeks. So stop lumping. Small
Stop,
shifts,
stop lumping.
massive
Well,
impacts.
yeah. So then here's the other thing. This is the fascinating part. So I wrote the second half of the book first. That was all the stresses, right? Yeah. And then I would say to
Really?
patients, like, I would go, well, okay, so if you weren't so stressed out, where would you be? And they're like, I don't know, never got that far. I only know what I don't want. I don't know what I do want. And I'm like, oh, well, this is a problem, right?
What you want.
Right. But that's where the happy place came in. And so the happy
Mm,
place was, I started looking into what's a happy place, right? And everybody has their own variation of their happy place, right? Some people like the beach, some people like the woods, some people like the north, some people like south. So they're all
like
different.
mountains. Yeah.
But here's what I found was that everybody's happy place has the same rooms. How they decorated, way different, but the rooms are the same. And so when you start identifying the rooms, then you go, oh, well, I can be in that happy place now. I don't
Yes.
have to wait for the weekend. I don't have to wait for my vacation. I don't have to wait till I retire. I can be yelling at my 4 kids and pulling my happy place out because here's what you say. Isn't it grateful that I have 4 kids that are healthy that I can yell at for running around and wrestling in the living room, right? So it's like the happy place then is made up of gratitude, pleasure, and love, anticipation of good things happening,
Mm,
feeling fulfilled, feeling contented, and then this term I use called cash. Okay, so here's cash. So cash is I'm feeling in control and I'm feeling connected. I'm feeling accepted and I'm feeling appreciated. I'm feeling safe and I have a spiritual sense of me. And I have
mm.
humor that I can use and I have hope that things are going to get better. And you're like, when you look at that as your happy place, you're like, boo, it's giving me tingles. It's like,
Yes.
how nice would that be? Like, and that's right there for you. You can pull it out of your pocket whenever you want.
Anytime you got cash, put it in your wallet, put it in your pockets. Yes, cash, cash, cash. I love it. I'm definitely gonna quote you on that one. Do you have the
Absolutely.
cash? Oh no, I'm
Quote
not
away.
talking about money. The real cash. This is the cash that
Yes,
keeps
that's
you
exactly.
staying at a level so you can have money. You can make money easily and do the things that you want to do.
You know what I realized? And this is something that came to me later, that before we had money, humans lived way long time before we had money, right?
Yes, we did.
So what was the currency that we used? It was appreciation.
Yeah.
Like we go, thanks for giving me that fish that you had those extra. And I go, well, thanks for giving me the berries that you found. Appreciation was the currency that we used to run our groups. And we still have it. And guess what? It's free.
It's
Like it doesn't
free.
cost anything. All you have to do is go, thanks so much. And it's done. And the person feels better and you feel better. Yay, right?
Yeah, yes, and it keeps stress at a lower level,
Yeah. So
way
bosses,
lower.
I want every boss to hear this. Appreciate everything that your people do for you every day because that makes them feel good.
Yeah,
That puts them in their happy place.
it does. It puts them in a happy place. Dr. Gary, mine's advice to go. It's where I step away from the camera and the microphone, and it's just you and the listeners and viewers. And the question I have for you is if you could leave our listeners with one truth about stress, mindset, and fulfillment, what would it be? And I will give you the microphone now. Here you go.
Listen up. So there's obviously a lot of things happening in your life, and a lot of people are feeling overwhelmed. And what I see then is they get resigned. They go, oh, there's no way out. This is just the way my rest of my life is going to be. And if there's nothing that you get from today other than this line, which is, it doesn't have to be this way. you can get not overwhelmed. You can get back in control. You can improve yourself. You can improve your mindset. You can take some of the tools that I give you, and you can feel back in control of your life, of your emotions, of your reaction to what's going on. So please do not resign yourself to this is just the way it has to be, because that is not true. There are ways out of this hole, and you can be better, and you can be happier, and you can live in your happy place the rest of your life. Good luck to you.
Wow. You get to choose to live in your happy place for the rest of your life. Dr. Gary, can you tell us, everyone, where you go, how to connect with you, and how we can grab a copy of your book? I think you have a free chapter of Highway to Happy Place for us too. Yeah.
So on the website, it's thelesstressdoc.com. And on that website, there is a chapter to the book, the worry chapter. And there's also a link to a course that I gave that basically gives the course. It gives the book in 15-minute little segments. So like when you're driving to work or you're cooking dinner, you can listen for the 15 minutes and get out what the book says, right? But if you want to get the book itself, it's on Barnes & Noble, it's on Amazon, and it's in an ebook style. It's also in an audiobook.
Yeah.
And then here's what I found. As an author, I don't know who's on the other side of the book. So I have to write kind of generically, right? So what I tell people is email me at lessstressdoc@gmail.com, because what I can do is personalize what's in the book to you, not just be generic.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so we're definitely going to have that in the link wherever you're listening and watching, in the description, wherever you're listening and watching to this. Dr. Gary has provided those details for our producers to make sure you have that. So trust me, this is not fluff. This is grounded, compassionate work. Go to www.thelessstressdoc.com. Oh my gosh, Dr. Gary, this conversation really does matter. Thank you so much for being here and for bringing so much joy in how to handle stress. You are a light. Enjoy yourself.
I want to use your smile. Like I have a walk-up song, right, that I wrote. This is called Happiness Highway. Yeah, and at the end of the song goes, I want a beaming smile on your face. And your smile is beaming. And I'm like, yes, I want that smile, right?
Thank you. Yes. And you have the same smile. You're just contagious. I definitely feel, it was just knowing that this information is out there, but you deliver it with such joy and such happiness. And so, yeah, you definitely are living on the highway and in your happy place. So you're sharing that wherever you go. So thank you so much, because stress doesn't just steal your peace. It quietly erodes your joy, your clarity, and your sense of control. But mindset gives it back. Dr. Gary Sprouse, thank you again for bringing wisdom, science, and humanity into this conversation. And to our listeners, remember to keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do, become. Stay in your happy place. I'm Dr. Alisa with my co-host today, Dr. Gary Sprouse, MD. Thanking you for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.